little bit more about you. I would love to listen to learn a bit more about you. I know you're a VA as well, so I'm quite excited to speak to someone who does similar things. And I think you also started your business when it was lockdown, so we have that in common. You've got
Yeah.
2 little kids, I think. So just tell me a bit more. And
Yeah. I actually have one of my little kids at home today, which was unexpected because that's obviously I booked this thinking they'd both be in nursery, but her nursery is shut because COVID today, so there's too many staff members off, so we're still in that situation. And I nearly rescheduled, and I thought, you know what, let's keep it real. This is the this is the life of mums, right? Working mums.
Totally
So
agree.
we're keeping it real because she's on her gadget in the corner while I have a meeting. So but yeah, I have two kids, a 2-year-old son and a 4-year-old girl. So still relatively young. And yeah, like you were saying, I started up my business in the middle of lockdown, and I'm thankful that it was as horrific as everything as it was for everyone to go through. That was actually an opportunity for me as well, and my business was able to flourish because everything went digital, right? Everything went online, and people were working from home who didn't think they could, and everyone learned how to familiarize themselves with Zoom, and so actually the virtual assistant community boomed, and it's all really flourished. So I took advantage and jumped in, and was able to set up really successfully. So I'm really grateful for that, actually. So yeah, I did that, and then I've recently moved into coaching virtual assistants who want to also set up, and actually I primarily focus on, and my main clients are mums who maybe who lack a bit of confidence because they've been out of work for a while, or have self-esteem issues because of unsolicited opinions on whether they should be going back to work or shouldn't, all that mum guilt. That I've lived it and I've been through it, and now I'm trying to help other people overcome that because it's so difficult, isn't it? I mean, I've seen on your socials, talking about the mum guilt. It's ever present, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Even though we know that it doesn't have to be that way, and even though we know we're doing our best, and even creating that business and showing our kids what we do is amazing, but it's still there, isn't it? It always comes through. It's incredible.
Absolutely.
But I think it's okay, like as long as we can embrace it and don't live by it, if the guilt eats us up and we're just feeling guilty all the time, then it's obviously not good. But if it comes in once in a while and we know, like saying hello and goodbye kind of thing, then that's okay.
Absolutely. It's sort of recognizing it, isn't it? And allowing the thought to enter your head, and then thinking, do you know what? I'm not going to engage it, or I'm going to challenge it with positive thoughts. I think, I was thinking about this earlier, and for some reason, there are so many unsolicited opinions offered on mums. I don't know why, but no one can really understand your exact life. They don't understand your children and how they respond to certain behavior management strategies. They don't understand your dreams and your aspirations and how your business is going and your struggles. They can have experiences of it in their own lives, but there's not one size fits all. You've just got to try things out and do what you can to make things work and do what's best for you and your family. And that's the thing, I think, nearly always, in my experience, the mums are doing what's right for them and their kids, and they're beating themselves up, and they're thinking, yeah, but I'm not doing this, and I've put my child on a gadget in the corner. But actually, you're making the best of the situation. It's always a juggle, isn't it? Everything's a balance. So you do what you can.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, I would be curious to find out a bit more about what you did before becoming a VA, and what got you to become a VA, and maybe a bit of your experience to do this in lockdown, because I had the same experience and it definitely wasn't a lot of fun. I'm just curious how it was for you, and just tell me a bit more about that.
So I was a teacher. I've been a secondary teacher for quite a few years before being a VA, and then when I had my eldest, I took a step down from that because it was just too much. It's a fairly stressful, intense industry to be in anyway, education. And for me personally, where I've struggled with mental health in the past, I just knew it wasn't the right thing for me to do. I'm not the sort of person that could come home from a stressful day teaching and just switch off. And I would have things playing on my mind. I'd have you know, I'd be a bit anxious about things that had happened or things that were coming the following day, and I didn't want to bring that home, and have that impact my kids. So I decided that, you know, teaching was going to be left in the past for the time being. And then I had my son quite soon after, so there was quite a long break. I went back I did a bit of admin with an adoption agency, which was actually amazing because it was such a worthwhile and such a lovely company to work for, and to just be part of helping other families to have, you know, to get to adopt children. It was so rewarding. It was lovely. So I did that for a short amount of time, but I sadly had to leave to have my son, and we relocated to a different part of England. And yeah, then in lockdown, we sort of decided that my son needed to go to nursery. My daughter had some free funding, but we needed to send my son, because for so long in lockdown, I was obviously keeping them both at home like everyone else was, and trying to manage it myself and trying to give them as much of experiences as I could do within our confines. And it was really tough. And we just decided, you know, actually they needed to go to nursery and try and get something else in their lives that wasn't just me. And actually for me as well, you know, I've always wanted to go back to work, and I've always known that I want to go back to work. And that's where, you know, like we've touched upon, there's so many thoughts on, should women go back or should they stay at home, and is it fair on the children? And, you know, I had people really close to me actually offering opinions on whether I should be going back, and I heard they told me things that I'll never unhear, and I wish they'd never said them. I won't go too much into it, but just things that were implanted in my brain, and now they still pop up every now and then. And actually, you know, it's always been my dream to own my own business, and I've always known that at some point in my life I would do it. And it's really important to chase your own dreams as well, and not forget about those, because you know, if you're not leading by example, if you don't also chase your own dreams, you're showing your children that they should sacrifice everything when they have children, and that's not how it should be. It's, you know, like you've already touched upon, you alluded to it at the start of our conversation, that they're seeing you build a business and build an empire, and actually there's a lot of positives to be gained from that. So as well as me being able to live my dream, my children are seeing it and they're learning from it, which is really lovely for me. And actually I think it's a really nice bonus of me being able to follow my dream.
So true. So true. I love that. Yeah, I mean, honestly, the switch from being like in the corporate world to being my own boss, I love that so much as well. But I have to say, because for me it was more unplanned. Like I was made redundant after my second one. I was supposed to come back to work, and just like in that entry conversation they said, oh actually, and it's not really, like, we can't really do that. Okay, what do I do? And I took it as the opportunity. Okay, let's try it. We'll see what happens. But I have to say, I was struggling with the confidence to do that. And finally, even already while being pregnant with my second one, I had this burst of creativity and this burst of confidence that I didn't have before, which I found so incredible. Like, really, I was pregnant and I just was like, I have this idea, and that idea, and I had like this huge amount of energy, and I was just doing, and that was really cool. And even after he was born, even though sleepless nights and all of that, I still felt like the queen of the world. So when they said, like, you know, you don't have a job, like, oh, cool. And I don't know, like, that was a weird experience, because, you know, going from someone who's like, no, I can never do this, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna do it anyway. That was just so cool. Like, that's why, like, I often say, like, motherhood is the opportunity to rewrite a whole woman, because that's what happened to me. I was like, and before and then after the second child, I was like a different person. So yeah, that was, but I'm still sometimes, yeah, the confidence, because I know you speak about that for moms, the confidence to have. It is so challenging because of all these social norms and social expectations that we see. Is how do you know that you are able to do it? How do you know you can juggle it? And is there even a juggle that's like thing of having a balance or harmony? Is that even possible? And all these questions, like, they're still on my mind all the time, even 2 years later. But
no, I agree. I think, and I was thinking about this the other day, I think it's going to take a lot of generations, and like you say, will it ever actually be completely resolved? But I think we're still at the stage now, certainly, where mindsets haven't caught up with the changes that have happened in society with regards to the woman's role. So the roles have changed, but actually a lot of people's mindsets haven't. Like, and my grandparents were still of the generation where the women stayed at home 9 times out of 10 and didn't have a career. And so actually that's still in my living family members. So, you know, we have to get quite far down the line before we get to the stage where people won't remember mum's staying at home. It won't be in their family. Mum's typically staying at home. And I'm not saying by any means, I'm not saying mum shouldn't. I'm saying the mum should do what's right for them and their family. And if they don't want to work and they don't need to work, that's fine. That's absolutely amazing. For me, I wanted to go back to work. It's such a personal thing. It's like we were saying before, you know, everyone's completely different. But I do think mindsets need to catch up. Sorry?
Yeah, sorry, like to see it as like life phases. Like right now, I want to work. Maybe in a few years, it's different. Or reverse, you know, like maybe you want to stay home for a few years when your babies are little, and then you go back to your career, and then maybe you want to travel for 2 years. Like, you know, not to have this linear thinking, okay, this should be my life path, and there's the end to it, which is retirement. It's more like really, how does it all, like now, what does it feel? What do I want? How does it make me passionate and happy? Because at the end of the day, that's what brings happiness to the family, isn't it? We're happy with the family.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like you were literally just saying about the confidence that sort of came when you were pregnant with your son. You didn't predict it and you didn't see it coming. I mean, that's amazing. What do you think it was? The pregnancy, the hormones? What do you put it down to? Do you have any idea? Or?
No, it was literally like, I mean, even with my first one, it was very energetic, but it was more. But then I was doing a lot of sports that put the energy in the sports back then. But this time it was the creativity that was really like, yeah, I don't know where it came from. And it's funny because my first one seems to be very creative as a person. The second one doesn't. I mean, he's only 2.5 years. You can't really say, but he doesn't seem to be that way. So it's just like, where does the creativity come from? Maybe as a person, not necessarily. I don't know. And the confidence, like, yeah, it's weird, but it was incredible.
And now you've never looked back, right? Now you don't miss the corporate world and.
No, yeah. I mean, it's definitely sometimes challenging to like work on your own.
Yeah.
With the lockdown, having the internet home, and you know, I love these connections on Zoom, but sometimes I miss that personal connection, obviously, like the physical in-person connection that is not so easy to maintain when you work from home. And also, I don't know how you feel, but really kind of having these boundaries of like working on your time and then being with the kids, it is very mushy when you work from home. You know, like I see my husband goes to work, he comes back, if the door opens, the door closes. That's not what happens with mine. But for me, it's just in between and running here, running there, like going back to my desk. So it has its challenges that are very different from the corporate world, but I love the flexibility. And I mean, in lockdown, like my husband was locked up upstairs to do his work because there was no understanding of flexibility, whereas I could do as and when I had to, and I could be there for the children.
Yeah.
And even now, like you said, nursery's closed. Then what do you do? Then again, the society would expect you as a working mom to call in work and say, "Oh, my child, I need to look up after him or her. I can't come today," because you see that's what the mom does.
Yeah.
So I don't have that because you're your own boss, and that's beautiful. So no, I wouldn't want to go back, but it's also definitely a steep learning curve.
Oh yeah. And there's going to be challenges in whatever, isn't it? I mean, running your own business it's not a walk in the park, is it? Let's not make it out to be a easy breezy, but it's really rewarding. And I feel exactly the same as you. The flexibility is amazing. And that's actually really what benefits my family and helps me finding that balance. Like, like today, my all week, my daughter's nursery shut and I've just moved a couple of things around and actually I can still manage that, where in the past, exactly like you've said, I've had to call into work, take time off, take the hit on my attendance record, which just made me feel like, made me feel bad, even though it's completely out of my control. And I really didn't like that. It made the juggle for me a lot harder. And actually now things are much more flexible, which is one of the real bonuses, definitely. But yeah, no, exactly what you were saying. I think that one of the main challenges is my partner's the same as your husband. My partner's works in a school, so he didn't have any time off the whole of the lockdowns. He was shut in a room and teaching online the whole time. And now, like you say, he goes in the morning, he comes back, and he says his commute in the car is his switch off time. So he has a 45-minute commute like there to get in the work mindset, and then a 45-minute commute back to switch off, and then he comes home and he's a dad. Whereas actually I'm in the home the whole time, there's no commute, there's no switch off time, and actually I've had to train myself out of working right up until I go and get my kids and then dashing out the door to go and get them. Sometimes I still have to do that, but I'm trying really hard to do something, if it's like a 20-minute exercise or sit and just relax, watch my phone, watch a bit of TV, something that isn't work, between working and going to get my children, to try and switch the mindset from work to being a mum.
Yeah, I do that with, like, I get paid. I work in whatever clothes, like, comfortable things, and then I change into fresh clothes to go and school and nursery, so that I have this, like, actual ritual or something to, like, say,
So
okay,
good.
work is finished, mummy hat on, and off you go. So yeah, I think
That's such a good idea. I love that. Like literally changing your clothes. That's
yeah,
so
yeah.
real
Because I
significant
tried something
moment.
like with this, like, relaxing. I even have a reminder on my phone until something says relax, and I do that for a little bit, but I still feel that my mind needs some action to, like, really switch, because otherwise the
Trigger it.
brain is going on exactly the trigger, like this ritual, whatever you want to call it, and that has worked for me. So yeah, I've adopted that.
Oh, I might try that. I love that. That's such a good idea. Yeah. Yeah, like a trigger. I mean, exactly like when people go to work, right? They drive, they get their morning cup of coffee when they get to work. It's that routine, isn't it? So it's, building it into your day. I like that idea. That's brilliant.
Yeah, the switching off is not easy, and then comes the guilt again, because I go,
Yep.
oh, I'm on my phone, I'm reading my emails. I shouldn't be reading my emails. I should be present with my children.
Yeah.
And yeah, the guilt comes back.
Yeah. It's a really difficult one. And actually, and I've found, yeah, my work's flexible, but like you said, there are times when an email comes through or something kicks off and I've got to deal with it while I'm being with the children, and then I'm feeling guilty. But actually, equally, part of the reason I gave up teaching was because I knew that was also going to bring stuff home for me, and I was also not going to be able to make that switch. Even when I was employed, I knew that would have an even bigger, yes, I could probably switch off the physical work, but I wouldn't be able to switch off my mind. I'd still be worrying about it. I'd still be anxious about it. So actually, for me, it's more about my mindset and being able to, just, it's not the work that's causing the issue. It's me and my brain and my mind. So I need to work on the tools. And actually, I've been having some help with working on the tools to address the guilt and think, actually, do you know what? I am a good enough mum and I am doing what's right by my kids. And that's been really helpful. So, yeah.
Exactly.
But it's ever present, like we said.
It's ever present, and somehow we forget as well, like you said, if you were working back in school, you still had that. And the same for me. If I was working in corporate, I would be working longer hours. I wouldn't have the afternoon, and maybe I would be more present with them in the evening, but I wouldn't have much less time with them, and I wouldn't be able to take them and do all the things we're doing. And but it's easy to forget, like when you are in this moment of, like, busy work day, and I've got to answer this email, and then your mind, like, oh, you're supposed to, but it doesn't mean that it's actually wrong, because the different situation works differently, and at the end, we're just doing the best.
Yeah,
the best we can, isn't it?
absolutely. Yeah, that's all we can do. And I think like you said with the mum guilt, sometimes it's about sometimes not guilt necessarily, but sometimes checking in with yourself and how you're feeling is not a bad thing, as long as you're aware of those feelings. It's about regulation. So that I'm not saying the guilt's positive, it isn't, but actually it is a way of regulating myself and thinking, actually, am I not being present enough with my children? If that's the case, then actually I'm going to put my phone upstairs right now. I'm not going to look at it, and I'm going to be present with my children. But actually, if my guilt was unfounded and I look back on the day and think, no, I've actually been really engaged with them, this is okay, I will deal with this email, that's okay. So it's about just stopping and checking in and thinking about my feelings, and then figuring out what I should be doing from there. I don't think it's always a negative thing for me to just be aware of what I'm feeling necessarily.
Yeah, I also tell myself the guilt is also like an expression of love for my children,
Yeah.
because I always just want the best for them, and I'm
Yeah.
guilty, I feel guilty, but it doesn't mean actually that I'm not loving them or anything. It's just like this little voice that's there, you know, always saying like, you love these kids a bit, they are the best thing in your world, and I don't, yeah, it's not a bad thing necessarily.
No, that's so true, actually. Yeah, it is, because you want the best for them and you want to do the best for them. Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. I like that.
And yeah, again, like for me, it was also difficult to understand that like I matter and I'm important just as they are, because I don't know, I'm still trying to figure out where this whole thing really comes from, because I wasn't necessarily raised in that way, that like it means you have to, I don't know, super mom, it's like, I'm not sure where it comes from, but it's definitely been there, where it's like, okay, like everyone else is more important than you yourself, and I have to constantly remind myself I matter and what I want is important.
Yeah.
But it's all a learning curve, isn't it?
It is, and I think you're absolutely. I don't know if it's the maternal instinct, like,
yeah,
but like you say, it's maybe always been there. I'm exactly the same as you, and it's something that I do work on. But actually, I don't know if it's the maternal instinct of always wanting to care for other people. I don't know. And maybe some women definitely have got that sorted better, because they're, you know, I've spoken to mums who have a self-care schedule, which is amazing, you know, and it's true, you can't pour from an empty cup. If you're not looking after yourself, you can't be the most effective mum to your children. So actually looking after yourself is looking after them. So, you know, it's definitely something that I'm working on myself, is not a schedule so much, but planning time to look after myself and do things that make me feel good.
It happens. Like sometimes I have it on the plan and on the schedule, but then something else gets priority, which is okay.
Yeah.
Once in a while, but if it's constantly like that, then obviously that makes
it's an issue.
It shows my energy, and it shows the way I'm there as a mom.
Yeah.
Often then it's too late when I'm realizing, oh gosh, you know, healthy mommy is coming out. So I'm getting better at it, but it definitely is a challenge. It's good to hear that you have similar feelings about that. Because, yeah,
it's a lifelong learning, right? It's something we're going to be working on forever, I think. But the balance is always, trying to find the balance is always going to be there. So, but also, you know, if you're, you know, I'm very conscious of explaining to my daughter and my son, but my daughter's older, so she has more of the language skills, about saying, you know what, sometimes mummy's got to do things that make her feel good as well, because you're modeling it to them. And I don't want her to grow up, and him to an extent, but I don't want, because I think quite often women struggle more, I think, with it's like that maternal thing. Women, I think, struggle a lot more to put that time aside for themselves. And I don't want my children to grow up in the same situation, feeling negative when they want to look after themselves and feeling guilty about it. So I'm trying to model it to her and explain it to her and make it, you know, explicit. Mummy would like a hot coffee right now, so mummy's actually going to sit and just take a bit of time, and that's important for mummy, that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the nice thing, because hopefully she won't have such a struggle and do so much internal work to, like, you know, make sure she's taking care of herself and all. And I actually had a similar conversation with my son about a couple of times, because, you know, what used to happen is like we as a family would do everything, or I take time for myself, but we haven't been taking a lot of time as a couple.
Yeah.
And then suddenly we like made time for us in the day, and my son, my older one, was like, well, why are you not taking us with you? And we're like, no, but mommy and daddy, they also need to do their thing sometimes. Like, some grown-up things together. Yeah, so I think it's important to really have this conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Explain why, so that they understand. It's not like I'm just leaving you here because I'm fed up with you. It's really, the reason is that we need that time and space.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's so important. We do so much internal work, and actually the children will benefit from that, but they can benefit even more from us being explicit with it and explaining it and talking it through, and then they'll start to understand it more and be able to implement it themselves. So I think, like you said, it's definitely the right thing to do, and it's about finding time for yourself and yourself as a couple and your children and your work and everything else.